Welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast with me, Sean Anderson, the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media. This is the show where I bring to you recruitment owners, leaders, investors, trainers, people from all over the world who are involved in our industry, who effectively provide insights to support those that are either at the helm of organizations or looking to in the future launch a recruitment agency and want to learn from those that have already trodden the path. In recent times, though, we've been focusing this show heavily on the current UK restrictions and how we can learn from different recruitment owners on their approach to keeping both themselves and their teams on track as we move into 2021. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by someone I've dealt with quite a lot recently, not so much in the past, but someone I admire and I've really enjoyed getting to know, and that's Chris Eldridge, the CEO of Interquest Group, a large organization that I'll let Chris tell you a bit more about. But today, I really wanted to speak to Chris because I think he brings a viewpoint on managing an organization that might be slightly different to the size and scale that a lot of my audience have. So I'm interested to know how you're doing it. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Yoda. I've got to call you Yoda because I'm part of the academy. Mm-hmm. You're bringing me up to speed. You're telling me how to get my own personal brand out there. So I'm the Luke Skywalker to your Yoda.
Yeah. Well,
I can call you that or Sensei right the way through.
Call me whatever you want, mate. Call me what. It's better than Philip Schofield, which is my usual name. But
that's a nice Barnet. Yeah.
Thank
you, Sean. On a serious note, thank you very much for inviting me along. I've thoroughly enjoyed your company over the last couple of months. So yes, pleased to be here.
Well, let's get into a little bit more about you today. It's all about you, not about me. Tell us, Chris, just for the listeners' benefit, just give us an overview of who you are and your position at Interquest.
Sure. So, Chris Eldridge, I've worked in recruitment virtually since I left university. I randomly went to university to design. Well, I left university, went to British Airways to design Terminal 5. That's how old I am, right? And I was one of the first 5 people on the team. And it sounds far more glamorous than it was because I was the guy that was making the teas and coffees for the really bright people. And then I left there. I went to a recruitment company to find me a job. They said, why don't you have a crack at this? I then said, do you know what? It's going to be quite interesting. But you've got a bigger company to go to. And they started it all off. They placed me at Harvey Nash, and almost 25 years later on, kind of a life in recruitment, always in technology. I've been very, very fortunate to work in the UK, domestically, across Europe, into Asia and into America. So, I've been very, very fortunate over my career to do that. Haven't had that many jobs, but really enjoyed it. And then I kind of progressed quite quickly, I think, when I started in recruitment, which was contract recruitment in IT contract recruitment in 1995, right? So, anyone could make money at that point. Anyone could be successful. You couldn't differentiate yourself, really. You didn't have to, in fact. You just had to be hardworking, conscientious, and you could build a good brand for yourself by being honest. And I think that was the key differentiator back then. Really? I think we're in a very, very different market now. Far more nuanced, far more professional. And I've been very lucky to start there, and then was given a big job. The guys at the team at Harvey Nash saw something in me, and then I've continued from there to where I am now at Interquest, where I've been here for just coming up to 5 years, the chief exec. We were originally we were a public company. Now we're a private company, and doing the best we can to fight the good fight during COVID.
For sure. So tell us a little bit more about the landscape, the size, scale of Interquest.
So we are, I think, I describe it as a kind of multidisciplinary IT recruitment company. And bordering on consulting. So we have a classic contract and contingent permanent business. We have a brand which is RDW, which is search, and they work exclusively at very senior work in consulting and technology.
Yeah.
We have an RPO, MSP, and total talent management business, which is our solutions business, Interquest Solutions. And that has grown very nicely over the last 2 or 3 years, really getting out of, it's adding value other than just going through the motions of managing and controlling a company's recruitment process. It's all the added value stuff you'd expect to that. And more recently, moving into the employee consultant space, where we will hire in graduates and train them and then deploy them with our clients as well. So the idea, when you look at it from the outside in, is no matter what the problem is, if you sit down with CIO, CTO, CEO, we look at all of their staffing challenges, we have an opportunity to help them in all aspects of it. It could be one or two technical specialists. It could be some leadership, one way or the other. It could be they've got a large recruitment campaign and we can put a wrapper around that and control reporting and spend a great deal of time looking at diversity and making sure that's balanced across the organization, right the way through to now, you hired 20 Java developers last year and the year before and the year before. Goodness me, wouldn't it be helpful if you actually grew your own? We can help you do that. We can, and there's a big kind of push in that direction. So it's that total talent management wrapper that we're trying to focus on, primarily in technology.
Wow. And how many people across how many locations?
Well, we've got offices up and down the spine of the UK. We've got 6 offices in the UK and 1 in New York. We're probably about 220 people now. No doubt, we'll talk about COVID a bit. We were more than that at the start of COVID, I'm afraid to say. We had to make some very tough decisions along the way. We've lost probably 30 people in the organisation, which has been, thankfully, everybody's got a job, which is, I'm delighted for. We've stayed in touch with everybody. But we, just like everyone else, have had to take their fair share of pain and get through it.
Wow. So, I mean, totally different to a lot of the landscapes of organizations I've interviewed. So I've got so much going on in my head.
But we're kind of stuck in the middle, really. We're not a little boutique, and we're not a Deco, or Randstad. We're in that mid-market, and I think in that mid-market you've got to be quite innovative to differentiate and to survive. And thankfully we've done well over the last couple of years, but it's a challenging market. Yeah. For sure.
So going in, you mentioned going into lockdown, you had circa 250, say, staff, maybe 30 more than you have today. Can you, I don't want to go into the massive first wave chat because I feel like everyone's over it a bit, but I just want to get to set the ground framework to where you are now. Tell us, what was it like for you as the chief exec of that company? Can you take us back to the reality of what it was like in March when things started to unfold?
Yeah, I think, if I'm being frank and kind of exposing myself a bit, it was hard to believe it. Yeah, actually, like we come out of Q1, which was a strong quarter for us. Everything was looking good for the H1 number, and you got all your investment plans on the back of that, and you're chomping at the bit, really. Yeah. And then we just didn't understand it, did we? We don't have the knowledge that we have now. So, and I think we were perhaps, and I'll try not to get on my soapbox about it, but we were perhaps overly compliant. It was like being in a film, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that and you've got to do the other, and we as Brits are lovely and compliant, and off we went. I think what that panned out to is a lot of fear, uncertainty and doubt, both with my team, and when I use the language of team, I mean not my top team but the company, and with our clients and with our candidates. So immediately you just saw everything stopped. And the idea of a virtual interview and a virtual placement was a joke. You must be mad, right? I mean, only on very rare skill sets had it even happened before. I was saying to you, only this morning we were talking, weren't we? And I said, we've gone from never really we didn't even record it when we've done that in the past, to doing, I think it's 5,600 virtual interviews now and making 868 virtual placements since March to now. And if you'd asked me that last year, I'd have said you were balmy. I think the one thing, looking back at it though, I've got a load of books here and I'm an avid reader, and but there's no book for it and there's no YouTube clip for it, and you've got to rely on your team. And I was very, very fortunate to have a very good team of leaders, both operationally and very good HR, legal, financial support. Briefly, what we did, it was, I think everybody has their time. If I look back on the start of COVID, every function played its role. First, it was finance. How much cash do we have? How long can we survive? What's our burn rate? What do we need to do? Who's going to speak to the landlords? Who's going to speak to the bank? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Once you've got that and you know where you are, then I think it's a case of saying, right, your income was here, and now your income's going to be, well, best guess. You got to think back in March. So it was a case of saying, right, we think we're going to be 60% down. And at that point, we had we've lost quite a few contractors going through the process, although they're coming back now. But we saw our income slide quite significantly. But your cost base was fixed. So what else could we do around the cost base? And that was really before the furlough scheme would even come in. So you're juggling that. But once you got a best guess around that, and we'd had, as I say, we had a quite strong Q1. So there was a lot of activity that was going to drop into placements in April, May. So you kind of think, okay, we've got a bit of a ramp here. So that was finance's job. Then it was the sales team's job and the client management team's job to go and speak to our clients and say, just offer a bit of support, really. Not only were we kind of reeling from it, but our clients were reeling from it. I don't think it matters how experienced you are, particularly with this challenge, how experienced you are, how much money you make, how many people you've got working for you. You're still human. And those human insecurities and frailties of character come out at times like that. So we were then talking to managers, advising them on their position, trying to play the honest broker between, and copying a lot of bad news. We're not doing this, we're not doing that. I know you've been working on this process for months, but we're going to stop it now. Thanks very much. And by the way, we're not going to pay your bill. But we got through that, and then we made a decision very early on to communicate as much as we possibly could internally, make sure that we didn't add to our team's anxiety, and we do as much as we can in the community. So I think as recruiters, and I'm not just talking about my firm, I'm talking about the industry, we are in a unique position. Now, there aren't many times you can go down to, have a conversation with somebody and within 10 minutes ask them how much they earn. You do that in a pub. You can't even do it in a pub now, can you?
Yeah. Never looked at it.
Yeah, but in our industry, you strip people, you get through the layers of the onion really quickly into the brass tacks. So if you're having that type of discussion with people, they bare their soul a bit. And then once you've spoken to 20 people, you kind of think, well, hang on, 15 of you got the same type of problem here. What if we were to get a webinar and we were to talk about it? Or even if it was just a private teleconference, just to say, look, you're facing exactly the same problem as she is. And, I think the two of you should just talk. So we put ourselves very much in second position, tried to look at life through that lens and what we can do in service to our clients. And then the final bit, and that worked. And actually, if I'm honest with you, Sean, we continue to do that, particularly in the second phase of lockdown, the rest of it. And the final bit then was, so finance had their day, and then sales had their day, and then it was HR and legal. And that was the more painful bit. By then, we knew we were in it for the long term. The government had come out with the first crack at a furlough scheme. And we looked at the business. If you think back, the government advice, I've got to be careful what I said, was opaque. I think it could be read into until they actually came out with, some hard and fast rules. But we were going to make some decisions based on common sense. Yeah. And actually, one of the things I say about the leadership team in Interquest is they're a sensible bunch. They're made up of long-standing business people, recruiters. Many of them had their own business in the past, so they were up for the challenge, as it were. Yeah. I think the thing I'm proudest of is nobody really tried to hide behind the sofa. They all put themselves in the way of the oncoming problem, which was which made my life a lot easier. And then we had to make some tough decisions. What we can do around furlough, what are we going to do around business areas, offices, and as I say, we put. I think we put in total about 50 people into furlough, and that process went quite well. And wherever we can, we've brought people back. But as I said right at the start, we were unable to do that for everybody, which is just really distressing. If I'm honest with you, you'd work really hard to get your business to a particular size and shape. A number of those people had worked with us for years and years. but it was just on those decisions, you knew that function wasn't going to be needed.
Yeah.
And, there's lots of holes in the boat and you had to plug a few holes to keep the boat afloat, really. So it was, I think we went through that process trying to be open, factual, and with as much kindness as possible. But it's probably, if I think back, one of the hardest periods of time. That April, May, June was, and just about everyone I spoke to that was in a position similar to mine where they had to make those decisions was in the same boat.
I think mine was obviously a hell of a lot smaller, and a lot of the clients I've dealt with are a lot smaller businesses. Well, I guess one question I've got for you based on the differences. I mean, I know for a fact when shit hit the fan, I personally got on the phone to every client we deal with, people I'd not maybe spoke to in 3 to 6 months because it wasn't my role anymore. I was like, they wanted to talk to me. I was on it. When you've got 200 people and a big leadership team and multiple divisions and different offices and different disciplines within that, could you actually get yourself, did you need to, did you want to, did you manage to get yourself in front of the client side, or was it all sitting and just supporting those that did that?
No, it was a blend, actually. So I am fortunate that I've got a small handful, really. I mean, we work with, I think in our staffing business, we've worked with 850 odd clients in the last 2 years. So there's no way I've got any legitimacy to ring people, really. Although we did write to a number of our clients just to offer our support, ask, what can we do to help? I've got a small cohort there and like most companies, it's our larger accounts, or it's the people that I've known for a long time. I've got my own kind of network, and quite a bit of time spent talking to them. And again, that was more asking the question, what can we do in service to them as an individual or to their business? It was quite cathartic though, because of course, when I'm going out offering help, they are then expanding upon the problems they face, which then informs my decision making. So in one way, it was, although I got very little back from it in terms of direct help, having those discussions 30 or 40 times round helps an idea come to being, manifesting itself, and then you can turn it into something. And even if I had got one or two, like, should I do this or shouldn't I do it? Well, by the time I've had that discussion with 10 other people and they're pretty much all doing it, then I can go with some confidence to my team and then go, right, okay, I think we should go this way. Internally, it was a very different thing. So you're right, we've got numerous different offices up and down the country. We've got America to think about. We've got clients all over the shop in the business. So I started off doing a weekly video out to everybody. We've got Workplace. We've got our own instance of Workplace. Yep. So it's easy for me just to put it together. And those first videos, if I look back at them now, it was a video of a worried man, really. Yeah. You couldn't script them. I'd have a script next to me, but actually you'd end up talking about something and you get really emotional. Somebody was no longer in a business, or someone's just seen all their, the last 2 or 3 years worth of client work just stop. And so if I go back to them, that was really about getting the facts out, making sure everybody understood where they stood and what the company was doing. And I've done them at least once a week for the last, I don't know how many, I've lost track now. I'm going to call it 30 weeks. I don't know. Yeah. Thankfully, though, that was the survive. If I look back at it, I could put them into 3 categories. The survive videos, then the kind of maintenance videos of, all right, I think we're going to be okay here. Income's doing that, costs are doing this, and we're starting to see some good organizational change. And then into the survive, maintain, and now starting to thrive a bit. And more, latterly, I'd say the last 6 or 7, 8 weeks worth are where I'm now able to go back to my business and say, right, well, check it out. This is happening and that's happening. And these interview rates are doing this. And, and actually let's turn this into, I call it kind of the feel good Friday, right. I want to hear everything. If you've got 6 interviews, great. You're going to go into the video. Doesn't matter, because I want your name to be out there in front of all your peers, because even if you haven't placed somebody, it doesn't really matter. I want to celebrate the effort and the inputs. And I think that's gone a long way to keeping people engaged and And one, they know what's going on. Secondly, the feedback that we've had from our pulse surveys are that people feel listened to, communicated to, and valued. And that's, we're going in the right direction if we get that feedback.
100%. I'm interrupting this podcast to give you another update from our sponsor, Odro. The team at Odro have launched another feature in summer 2020, and it's going to be a game changer. This is going to massively change the way the recruitment agency market operates globally for the future. They've called it Odro Producer. This platform sits alongside the company's award-winning video interview opportunity and gives you, the recruiter, the ability to create engaging, eye-catching video content ready to share in a matter of minutes. So you can record or upload a video, and then you can add banners, overlays, images, subtitles, logos, so that you can create these eye-catching videos that are built for LinkedIn. So whether you're interviewing, whether you're doing sales messaging, or you're just trying to put out valuable content online, then Odro is no longer just a video interview platform. It's also a content creation platform for recruiters. Get in touch with Odro today to see how you can implement this into your recruitment agency ASAP. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show. I want to get into some modern day stuff and future in a minute, right? Yeah. But before I do, there's something like, so I think you're in a really unique role, because I think most recruitment leaders are the founder of the company, right? When you deal with that CEO level, they usually started the business, whereas you've come in 5 years ago and took over someone else's business, right? And where, I think there's loads of questions in my head around this, but where would you say you could, when you didn't have a rule book, there was no master book to follow when COVID hit, but where did you lean in your background at the previous companies? Like, what experiences did you think, right, Chris, I've done this before, or I felt like, where did you naturally lean, or who did you speak to? What did you do to get support? Because no one thinks about your part in that. What did you do?
Well, one of my kind of, he's a good friend, but a mentor really to me, is a guy called Bill Grubbs, right? Externally. And he's based in America, and he kind of advised me a long time ago, when we were a public company, just get your kitchen cabinet around you, people you can lean on and help and go to for advice. So that was a very good sage bit of keep yourself sane, because you need somewhere to go, and someone that's experienced similar levels of challenge or anxiety or stress, and how you're going to cope with that. I think that I'm lucky that I've got a number of clients who were candidates who are now great friends, and they've got big jobs. So I can lean on several of them, and that is for really good advice around how to run a business or just a really gnarly problem, through to someone like Joe Bagley, who's the EMEA CTO of VMware, who's advised me to get a Blue Yeti. This thing here, and the Elgato lights, and for God's sake, Chris, get yourself a couple of screens, just to make your life, the quality of your life easier. But also, I've got in-house as well, and our chairman, Gary Ashworth, is quite extraordinary. He's the person that we're a buy and build business. He brought it all together, and he is quite an extraordinary character. And you can have, a very frank and challenging conversation, and know that it isn't going to blow up, it isn't going to turn into something that it shouldn't be. So we've had some very straightforward conversations as the kind of chief exec to the chairman who was the founder, but you'd normally think, hang on a second, surely someone's personal interests are going to get involved. But actually we've had some, if Gary doesn't mind me oversharing, a bit of coaching on how our relationship should work and the distance we need to put in it. So you can have that challenge far closer to home as well. And that's seen us through. So what I've benefited from kind of foils, a mirror to bounce things off a long way away in America, let's say, through to, some well-established client relationships that I can turn to for a real head scratcher and just say, I don't know which way to turn, and particularly useful when your energy tanks are low and you can't go into your own business because you don't want to burden other people with your troubles, but you can then go to someone that and the chairman's been very helpful. Very, very helpful. We, as I say, I'm lucky to have this kind of top team now. And if I think back on companies that I've worked in that have worked and performed at a high level, it's where you manage to get the team together and have some sensible discussions and drive outcomes out of it. If I think back at those first 2 or 3 months after lockdown, we covered a lot of ground very, very quickly. The leadership team put themselves again in second position, what's right for our clients, what's right for the team, and we got through it that way. So probably communication is the most important thing.
100%. I think, I don't know about you, but looking back on the first lockdown, I'm really proud of what we did. I'm really proud of my whole team. But I think, and we put our clients first. We definitely put our clients first. We put the industry first. We sacrificed our own time, our own energy, our own, salaries, our own charge rates, all of it to keep things. But what happened was we definitely depleted the tank. So when it got to sort of July time, I lost the plot personally. Like I had a week where I just said, I'm not sick, because I can't remember having a sick day. 8 years ago, I think I had a sick day, but I'm fucking empty. I'm running on fumes here. And I just launched the academy, and I said to my business partner, I said, Amma, you got to take this on for me for a week. And he's like, you've only just started it. I was like, I know, but about a month in, I ain't got the energy. Like I need it. So I went to the Lake District for a few days, and God, it was so vital. But what I saw when I came back was everyone else running on empty.
Yeah.
It's literally just like,
that's a bit cruel, going to the Lake District. We've got no cell phone coverage, and they're ringing you and they can't get through to you, thinking he's literally just legged it. Like, what are we going to do here?
Yeah, don't worry. I have got a good team. They didn't bother me that much, to be honest. I did doubt after a few days, do they need me? Like, do they want me to come back? But then we said to ourselves, then in the next quarter after the whole madness was all about operation people. Like, so we did that. We gave that mental health day off, and we just invested more time in the people. And our culture, I think, has been revolutionized. Like, I genuinely think the team is a million times closer and better than they were. So that leads me to my next question with you then. So where's the business now, and what's the key difference in the way you guys operate? Like, what are the, obviously you mentioned the video interview bit, but that I imagine that's crucial. That's a fundamental change to keep the lights going. What's changed in the company, in the way people work, the way people communicate? Well, give us a bit more insight today.
If I just go back, I will answer that question. But if you go back to, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type of mentality, and you hear that a lot. I'm hearing it a lot from clients right now, which is I've got an overused phrase. I can't accredit it to whoever said it originally, but I know it wasn't me, and whoever it was, I've got to apologize for using it all the time. But what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
So what got us to this point isn't going to get us out beyond COVID. No one's going to go back to exactly the same business model that they had, 12 months ago. But also, if you choose to, once you've got the pain out of the way and the lows out of the way, if you choose to focus on the positive, one of the things I think is going to be a big positive is this cohesive mentality. Hopefully, as you said, what you've done is you've had your people project, you brought everybody together, they feel empowered, they're part of the future, and off they go. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that we need to retain after all of this is this feeling of cohesiveness. The fabric that holds together our group has never been tighter, really. It's tangible, it's almost physical. You can always see it. People, we had an incident earlier this week. Someone's got some very, very bad news over the weekend. But, in the past, you've been saying, when you see them, have a word, just everybody dives in to let them know it's okay. And you know what? If you can't face it, that's all right as well.
Yeah.
So I think one of the big positives out of this is around well-being, around the support that people can give to one another, and also the fact that it's okay to talk about it. So, and I don't want to get too on one about this, but we have an external company which we've got to deal with. It's an employee assistance program, and if somebody has a financial worry, a relationship worry, a personal concern, they don't feel comfortable talking to their manager, they can go bring this company up and they'll help them. We've also got, I think, 6 or 7 mental health first aiders in our business, and they've been trained to help and be there for people. Now, last year, 12% of our staff used that, and And we don't get to know who, we don't get to know why, we just get the report. This year to date, 38%. So it's more than trebled.
It's incredible.
And that in itself, on the one hand, is very worrying, but I don't think we're different to any other business out there. But also, I take a little bit of solace in it that people are reaching out, they are talking, they're going to find help. They're not turning inwards on themselves as people tend to do.
You provided an avenue for people that a lot of people haven't done. So you should be proud of that.
I would hope it's a bit more common than we would necessarily know. When I've spoken to our bigger clients, normally international clients, it's a common theme now. But I'd recommend it. And if anybody wants to, contact me about it, and I can get you put in touch with them, I think it's really good. But I think it's great that people are talking about it. And just to finish it off, I just think I want that to continue moving forward. I want people to feel comfortable in their role and comfortable talking about the challenges. What are we? Remind me of the question again before.
It was all about like the major differences now. So you've talked about the fact that people, use that facility that was already there, but was probably never as exposed. You talked about the camaraderie and how people, naturally jump onto each other. But what else is that? I know from seeing you each week now that you've got a blended model in terms of how you personally operate in terms of. So tell us a bit more about the working practices at Interquest and how
I think from the business perspective, we're going to have to work out, like everyone else is going to work out, what you're going to do around location. So we're in the middle of the second lockdown now, and I don't think particularly controversially. I hope it's not controversial. I hope it's sensible. We haven't shut our office. We've said to people, work from where. I think the government guidance is, work. If you're unable to work from home, go to an office. I think it was once upon a time it was around effectively. Now it's kind of that's the message we've been given. Yeah. I've turned that into you need to work where you are the most effective, but where you're the most comfortable. I'm lucky. I've got a reasonable sized house in leafy Marlow. If I've had enough at lunchtime, I have to go into town. I can just walk around a garden, Whereas I'm very cognizant that a large number of the team that work with me they don't have an office at home. They're sat on the end of their bed in a hunch position, typing on a laptop in an environment that just is not good for them. So I've kept the offices open. We've all but this is just the leadership team made the decision, and people are going into the offices are COVID safe, and but people are going into the offices. We have to keep a register. We have to know where they are. But I want them to be able to have an outlet, because I think the impact on mental health has just been so poor.
Yeah,
and I think we're only starting to hear about it now, and I think it will be one of the horrible legacies of this, great rush to lock down all the time. So I think we've got to overcome this balance between working from an office and working from a remote environment. And I believe you've almost got to put COVID to one side and say, what does a congruent working pattern look like? It might not be 5 days in the office. It might be, but it isn't just going to be, I'll do 2 in and 3 out. It needs a bit more thought than that. If you're on a client site, perhaps it's pre-governed by the client. But what it certainly isn't is, I do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office because I quite like my Mondays and Fridays from home. That isn't a good answer either. So I think we need to sit down and really understand where people are being the most effective by job role, and get out of this mentality of, I'm an all-in company or I'm an all-out company. I was reading yesterday in the information around, so many companies are leaving San Francisco now. There's all this office space in San Francisco. We don't have an office in San Francisco, I don't know. But they're not all going remote. They're going to somewhere else. They're going to Texas, actually, in Austin. And they're not doing it for well-being. They're doing it for costs, because San Francisco is just so flaming expensive. So it's never quite as clear as you think. Rarely a company is wholly altruistic. No, they will be looking for cost savings. So I think we've got to get that balance sorted out. once you've got that, I think then communication is very important. We've scrambled, haven't we, to use Teams and Zoom and WhatsApp and every other tool. But I think now it has to be centralized again. And I think it has to be centralized for our own well-being, actually. We've got a database that we use. In fact, we've got 2 different databases, different brands. But so much communication is going out of process that I think we need to bring it back in process. So I think that's going to be quite an important staging point moving forwards. And I think now, going back to that point around, what got you here won't get you there. I don't think we're alone. I think lots of recruitment companies now be looking at, right, where do we really want to be? This is almost a bit of a fire break. There'll be winners and losers out of COVID. There'll be phoenixes and there'll be the companies that trundle along. And in the UK, I can only talk about the UK, so your Australian audience, this will mean nothing. Well, actually, quite a few of them are ex-UK recruiters, so it might mean a bit. But IR35 is around the corner next year.
Yeah,
we've got that. So we had it in the public sector. So we're coming out of COVID, and we've got the kind of step hurdle, which is IR35. Now, the more people I talk to about it, it seems to be resolving itself to some extent. But you've got that, and you've got Brexit. So what I've been doing, why I didn't do my homework last week, Sean, as I had to fess up to all the group on the academy this morning.
Go on.
I'm doing best I can. Is that we're now in a budget for next year. And you've got to put a budget together that gets you out of COVID, gets you past Brexit, and gets you past IR35. That's the challenge. So I'm talking to managers internally, and I'm also asking clients how they're doing it. And a lot of them are breaking down their budget processes that said, we're going to put a first half budget together. The second half, we're going to, we'll have a good guess at it, but we're going to rebase that after we've got Q1 out the way, and we can see what's happening in terms of trends. Now, they're not all recruitment companies, but I think we've got some headwinds yet to navigate. So I think we have now to look at the services and products that our clients are going to want, and those that are going to give us the not always the best return, but the return that we want on capital invested. You can't just, when is enough? If you've got a business model and you keep banging the drum, and it's not working, I'd say now is a good time to really get underneath that. You've done it with your products and services. You've shown a great deal of innovation around where Hoxo have gone. I think we're starting to show some innovation around where we go, and I wouldn't be surprised that if by the end of next year we've moved some business areas. We've moved our focus from particular parts of the market. And I'm borrowing our chairman's language, actually, when he said, have 4 or 5 bets, and when you find out what works, bet big.
Yeah.
And I think we're in the 4 or 5 bet stage at the moment. I think there's definitely markets that are slowing down. We see the trend now for clients to be doing a lot more of their own kind of contractor sourcing, really, through different channels, either directly or through freelancer management systems, which I think is a really big kind of surge up in there, particularly in the development world. Mm-hmm. Also, we're seeing a dramatic shortage of development talent.
Yeah,
and that isn't going to go away. As companies now want to digitize, they're going to suck in these resources, and we're closing the doors on Brexit. So where's it going to come from? So we as a nation need to create our own talent, whatever that might look like. So I think in there, although we're kind of staring, we're looking backwards at this horror story, I think we could be looking forwards at, right, if I just get if I really understand my clients, and I can perhaps, channel a bit of my investment spend from a let's say a cash cowed market, a market that's kind of, that's stagnant, and put it into this, and hopefully be able to retrain people that did that into doing this, then goodness me, we can find another lung, as it were, and go again. And that's what I'm really trying to focus the majority of our time on.
A final interruption to today's episode to introduce Vincere. Vincere is the all-in-one CRM ATS platform built for the recruitment and staffing industry. Now, I first heard about these guys about a year ago. The amount of prospect recruitment agencies and clients I was working with that were telling me they were moving over to Vincere, I had to look into it. And what I found was a business that had a global reach with multiple offices around the world. So they've got this follow the sun methodology, which allows them to support recruitment businesses wherever you are and be in your time zone. But the technology that they've invested in is becoming a disruptor in the space. More and more recruitment businesses are doing this to give their their recruiters a competitive advantage. They broke into the G2 Crowd's momentum grid as a market leader based on their reviews from their customers. So the agencies that are using this platform are raving about it. Now, if you're a RAG listener and you're thinking about changing CRM, or you're a new business looking to launch with a new CRM, then I would get in touch with these guys, because if you mention that you're a RAG listener, they're doing an amazing deal. By visiting www.vincere.io/RAG, you can get an exclusive deal which offers 2 months completely free on a 2-year commitment, or 3 months completely free on a 3-year commitment. This applies to all licenses that you've either signed up for now or that you'll add in the duration of the contract. So get on there and have a look. Finally, if you're listening and you're a recruiter and you're thinking, I want to move into a more of a business development role, and I'd like to keep hold of my recruitment knowledge. Well, these guys are recruiting for a BD person, well, multiple roles in both Sydney and London right now. So if you've got a strong recruitment background, you want to move into BD and you want to work for a fast moving tech business that's helping people like you right now, then get in touch via their website, because they're hiring today. Back to the show.
There's so much out there to think about, and every recruitment organization is different and has got their own levers to pull and people to think about. What are the major, you mentioned, markets, certain markets are slowing down, blah, blah, blah. What's the kind of dashboard that you look at the top? Like what are the levers you're watching daily to know whether things are on track?
Well, I think there's inputs and outputs, right? So outputs are Ben Felton, our CFO, and I almost daily look at. So we've gone from weekly forecasting. I think we've gone from kind of monthly forecasting to weekly forecasting to daily forecasting, because we've got to know where we stand, right? What you then need is a pretty good internal communication tool. You need a culture that rewards honesty, not that deal's dropped out, but I'll just cover it up and I'll deal with it another day. No, we need to know, and I won't judge you on the number. I'll judge you on your ability to predict the number, because we have to. If we know we've only got, if we had that, and now we've only got this, we've got to do something with our cost base, or we've got to deal with it. But we can't live in a world of surprises, right? Yeah. So every day, we look through the net fee income, the amount of WIP, work in progress, that we've got. We then have our best guess at what our cost base is going to be this month. I say best guess, it's a reasonably big business. Yeah. It was harder to manage before COVID, because there's a lot more discretionary spend going on. These days, there's nothing to just discretionary spend on, quite frankly. Sure. So we can have a pretty good guess then at the EBIT level, the EBITDA level, and look at our cash position. So we can then forecast our cash quite carefully. And of course, as you know, that's like, that is the blood that runs through the company. Oh. So that is straightforward. Then the other side of it is the levers, the inputs, and most of the people that will be looking at this will be recruitment people. KPIs, there's lots of KPIs, and they're not like your kids. So you don't have to love them all equally. You can pick one and love it just a bit more than the others, Yeah. and the one that I love, and I try and get everyone else to love, is first interviews. Yeah. So I think I could sit here with half a dozen CVs in a market I know reasonably well, and even without a client asking me to recruit, I could get some interviews. I could proactively manage the situation to create an interview. What about, where did you work in the past? What did you do? Who did you work with? Do you mind if I just give them a ring and maybe see if you want to go back there? Bang, interview. So in the world of 1,001 KPIs, and some qualitative and some quantitative, I think first interviews is the critical one. Now, we watch everything else. We watch CVs sent. We watch jobs registered. I think one of the things that one of the outputs of COVID that I'm quite impressed with is for every 100 jobs the group picked up previous to COVID, we placed about 40. So like 40% fulfillment rate. I guess that's about right. Solid. A third of your jobs will disappear. A third will go because the client changes their mind. A third will go to the competition. If you do your bit, well, you've done a third. We were 42%, and now we're 47% on average since March 23rd. And that's because I think we've got better at not wasting our time. So role qualification we've been really hot on that. Candidate qualification, and particularly counter offers. Are you really going to move? Are you going to move from a 3 month notice job to go and take a new job where there's a 6 month probation period and you're on 1 week's notice in a company that you've read about online, but you don't really know because you've only met them 3 or 4 times? Are you really going to do it? And I think having those types of conversations, you get the truth a lot quicker, right? So I think that's very important. But if I look at our first interviews every week and I track them, see what they've done. Last week, for example, was the second highest in COVID. We've had more jobs last week than at any point since 23rd of March. Our second highest level of interviews, although the placements don't the placements will come down the road. That's probably December and January's.
It's like specializations on the.
Yeah. I'd love to know how that actually works out. So, but if I know that, then I know I can pretty much have a good stab at how much money we're going to make next month, and therefore I know what to do with the cost base. So if I could, that's what I know. Lots of companies do it different ways, but that would be us.
Right. And obviously you've been part of the academy for the last 9 to 10 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And
9 this week.
Yeah, it was week 9, wasn't it? So you made a decision to join a group of recruitment leaders that are invested in their knowledge of marketing and knowledge of personal branding, etc. Yeah. And we're now going to be looking at working across Interquest, which is exciting. The question I've got for you is like, where do you think? Obviously, I think you think like me, or else you wouldn't be doing those things. But where do you think the role of the recruiter is going, and how do you think social, like digitalization and the acceleration through COVID, where do you think that's going to take the role of the recruiter in the future?
If I'm honest, I don't know. I don't know the chessboard square it's going to land on, but I got a strong feeling for the direction it's going to go. And I think that I think COVID will actually speed the process up about the recruiter who's the honest broker, the recruiter who is, going to be, put the consultant in sales consultant. That's a hackneyed term, isn't it? But I think we've actually got an opportunity to do it. And I think how to do that is to lay the kind of doors open a bit and show your community what you stand for. So I think it's easy, if you look back at recruitment, and I go back to 25 years ago, people weren't necessarily worried about their social impact. And I don't mean that as in social, LinkedIn, all the rest of it. I mean, like socially, what are you doing good for the world? Very few people go into recruitment to want to make the world a better place. But if you think about it, you are the person that changes somebody's route in life. You find them a job with 25 grand more, 50 grand more, you've changed their life. They might get a bigger house. They might put their kids in private school. They might be the first time a child goes to university. So I think that stood back then, but right now, and in the future even more so, you've got to lay yourself bare. So why did I go to the course? Because I've got a very corporate, I'm typically kind of middle-class British, right? So I don't like everybody knowing what I'm up to. I don't like showing my, washing in public. But you avoid embarrassment that way. But what you don't do is show all the value that you can bring. And actually, you keep your light under a bushel, I think that the phrase is. This going on the course was an opportunity to say, right, do you know what? I've got a lot to say, as you can tell, and I've got a reasonably defined voice in the market. But I need to learn how to do it. And I don't want to do it through our marketing team. I want it to be authentic. I want people to know what I stand for. And I've also seen others that I work with. Joe Bagley is a really good example, the chap that I mentioned at VMware, who has the very, very strong social position, right? He puts everything out there. He's a genuine polymath. He's unbelievable at technology, but he's also, shares his love for mountain bikes, shares his love for EVs. He's got more Tesla kit than Elon Musk has. But I really admire that, and I wanted to be in that position, and I want our recruiters to be in that position. If you say, how many times we looked at a LinkedIn profile, I'm an expert in Kubernetes recruitment, and you look and think 3 months ago you're working for Foxton's, pal. Come on. Yeah. What I really want people to do is go, I'm an expert in Kubernetes, and here is my meetup. Here's the webinar I've done. Here's all the other stuff I put out there. Here's how I can work in service to you. If I'm now a Kubernetes, if I'm a candidate who's got that skill, and I want to go and work, I want to go and find a job, I'm going to go to the person that has authenticity. So I'm of an opinion now, once we've got everybody trained, I would like to set some social selling KPIs to actually push people to put themselves out there, to demonstrate they can clearly differentiate. Experts by definition know more and more and more about less and less and less.
100%.
And I want them to be like that. I want everybody to have that. And I think it's a big tool to have in your armory, coming out of COVID. But I think more so than ever, I think it's to sped it up. I think if you don't have that, you're just going to be noise.
100% agree. I think I look back at my experience in recruitment, and it was a completely offline experience. But and you said it a minute ago. I was constantly. I had a really good memory, and that's probably my number one strength, I think, is my memory, right? So if I was in a meeting with a client, I could probably name...
I'd hate to have been your manager. Where are all those names on the database? No, they're all up here.
No. I was actually pretty good with that. I mean, I wouldn't say they weren't on the database, but I got to them faster than the database. So I would do the deal on the way back from the meeting on my mobile because I could just remember it, right? Yeah. But that worked for me because I could credibly, in a client meeting, I could name and drop so fast, and I could reference things that a client was like, this guy's done it because he, whereas, but I also felt like I wanted to show it, not just say it. I feel like sometimes when you say things, anyone can say things, and sales,
back it up.
We're all known for being good talkers. Like sometimes you can be that good a talker. People think even when you are honest, you're full of shit because you just come across so well.
That's just right.
I had that with a recent client. We'd already signed them, and in the strategy, we came up with this idea, and he goes, I really love it, Sean, but I'm worried you're just making it sound so good, but is it even doable? I was like, well, we'll prove it. But so my point is, that was kind of my brain back in 2015 was like, I'd love to be able to show this. And then now what you've just said, we've got the platform to do it. We've got the platform to, I can sit here and I can share a video with the chief exec of Interquest. I don't need to say I know the chief exec of Interquest and drop your name. I can prove it. And I don't think people understand the monetary value of this activity yet. Like my podcast alone in the last 2 years has revolutionized not just what we make, but how we make the money at Hoxo. Like the way that people come through. I had a guy who signed a contract with us without he didn't even need, bear in mind, this can sometimes take a month to get someone over the line to sign a retained project with Hoxo. He didn't even need the conversation. He's like, I've listened to you in my ear every week for a year. Like, where do I sign? I don't really know what you're even going to do for me yet, but I just I know it's what I want to do. And I know you're the people I want to work with. And that never bloody happened before.
No.
And it's scary where that can go in 2 more years, 3 more years,
Yeah. And I think starting out now, because I think it's going to become very apparent to most people in a client-facing role, whether in recruitment or whatever it is, that video is going to take over, and you've got to have the skills to be able to talk to people and put your point across eloquently, concisely, and to make it land with people. And that audience, no matter who they are, it has to land with them. So, you can't be discreet to individuals. That's the next step of the conversation. But you just got to have a view, and you've got to be interesting, and you've got to be interested, I think, which is more important. And one of the things that I've learned on this in Academy is just the vulnerability, which every ounce of me, my 47 years, have been trained out of me. You can't show, if you're chief exec, you can't show vulnerability. Yeah. And actually, COVID's been a real slap around the face for me. It has enabled me. I don't want, it's not. I don't want to be a burden, but I want people to understand it's okay to be vulnerable. Yep. The post I put up a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn, which spoke to kindness not being a weakness, but actually being a strength. It was on World Kindness Day. But there aren't that many, kindness and the affiliation around kindness in leadership has been kicked to the curb. Actually, it's like number one thing. It costs you nothing to be kind. So, and you can be another, little phrase. You can be rigorous without being ruthless. Yeah, I think recruitment companies in the past, they're all classics. I won't name them, but early 2000s were ruthless places. There's no place for that today. You can be rigorous by all means. Let people know where they stand and work in service to their development. So if I can get my message out now through this medium, it will make me, I believe it's going to make me more effective. It will hopefully attract people towards the company that I'm leading and that I'm part of the leadership team of. And it will be a message out there to the team, my team, and actually everyone else out there to say, just put yourself out there. What's the worst that can happen? You know, you might get a bit of stick, but we're all pretty thick-skinned. You can get over that. But get your message out there.
Totally. Something a little bit closer to home to sort of wrap us up a bit.
Yeah.
But obviously, I mentioned it right at the beginning of the show that majority of the owners in our industry or leaders in our industry are the owners of the company, the people at the top of the tree. But I also love the fact that, you know, I've got someone like you who's showing, you know, you got so much success. You've done so many great things. You don't need to necessarily have founded the company to be at the helm and to be, you know, making great decisions and building a great career. When did you know that was the route for you? And how did you, because I'm sure that it's gone through your mind of starting your own Chris Eldridge enterprises. Like what made you just decide that actually, no, you were going to be the chief exec of someone else's company?
So I think there'll probably be a day when I do, but I think it will be on a smaller, I think it'll be the second half of my career.
Yeah.
You know, I think that what prevented me from doing it originally was the opportunity I had at Harvey Nash, and it just pushed me into this position of responsibility. And I quite enjoyed it, if I'm honest with you. And I was lucky enough to have a few coaches and people around me, you know. I would think back to people like Monique Levine, you know, who probably a name you don't recognize, but Monique was a fantastic recruitment trainer. She's gone on to do other great things now, but, you know, a lot of time invested by some very, very kind people. But then you end up managing a team of 40 or 50 people. And the idea of going and starting up yourself, well, you kind of think, no, you know, a different path now.
Yeah.
And what stopped me, what's prevented me from doing it is the next opportunity's been just a bit better than the last one. So when I went to go and work for Bill Grubbs at Spring, which was then bought by Deco, that was a great job. Yeah, and I worked for people that had a vision, and I could really get behind the vision. I think here, you know, when I left PSD, didn't I go and start my own thing up? Because I found an opportunity that I could really believe in and get my teeth into, and I really enjoyed the people. If I hadn't, then I may well have started my own family. I might not have even had an opportunity. I might have had to do it, you know, just to get keep the bills getting paid. But I've found opportunities, and I've kind of really gone for opportunities where I think my personality can make a difference. I didn't really want to join a firm to necessarily, you know, have the badge of running a public company on my CV. That wasn't part of it. It was actually this business had been a buy and build, as I said before, but it just wasn't humming. All the jigsaw pieces in the wrong place. And, you know, I thought I could put it in the right place. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would do. You know, that's another podcast for, you know, what have you done wrong over the last few years, you know, last 25 years. I think
we'll put that in 2021. Well,
yeah, that's a double podcast, that one.
One of the questions evolving though is like, I think there's a shitload of people in this industry that don't necessarily want to start a company, but they feel like the only way they can be a CEO or an exec is if they do. And that's why we get, you know, some really unhappy recruitment owners, because they leave that team environment, they leave all of the development they were getting, and they think their only route is to start their own, and then they don't enjoy being on their own. They don't enjoy they're not particularly, you know, they don't want to be an entrepreneur and deal with all the crap behind it in the earliest stage.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who sat there? Maybe, I mean, I was in the same role. I was in a manager role in a 57-man business, thinking I could have definitely gone on to lead a lot of that company, I'm sure, but I did decide it was for me. But if someone's at that point where they're like, well, actually, I quite like the thought of what Chris has done.
I mean, our business broadly is polarized, isn't it? Massive behemoths, huge companies, you know, megatrons of this world, and tiny, small boutiques. Yeah, really. You know, another answer to why did I take this job is because I'm afraid of doing a small thing. I like scale. It gives you opportunities to do stuff. You know, I find that more interesting than, you know, the small stuff. I think if you do see a lot of founders, you know, we've looked at a number of companies through acquisitions over the years. They're not the happiest people in the world, because scaling a company, you might get to 5 people, 10 people, but getting to 40 is really, really hard. And then you've got to exit it, you've got to sell it, then it gets into multiples and what you can sell your business for. and you always think it's worth more than people offer you. It's a bit like entering a cake eating contest to find out first prize is more bloody cake. So what I do is any of these managers, aspiring managers in medium-sized companies, is talk to your directors, talk to your managing directors, talk to the founders. There's loads of good ideas out there. What's to stop you from putting yourself out there? All they can do is say no. And if they say no and you really want to do it, then it's not for you. You can go somewhere else. You can be creative. You can say, I've got this great idea, but I need you to back me. All right, let's talk about some type of share option scheme in this new venture. You put the money up, I'll grow it. You have the majority share, but I'll drive the rest of it for you. But I think most people don't have those discussions. They have the internal dialogue. They get a bit wound up about it, and then they lash out. And that lash out is, I'm going to start my own firm up then. Yeah. No, just slow down, because you've got a great skill set. And we must be one of the only industries that encourage people to go and do it. It's so hard to go and do. There's such a high failure rate that if we were just a little bit more professional, you could have that discussion internally with a manager that's got an open mind, and is receptive to it, and then you can do it. But you've got to have the backbone to go and do it.
I think it's so well put. I think what I love about this sector is there is that opportunity to go and start. I think it's great. I think it's it provides so much to so many people. But you nailed it. Like, sometimes people think it's their only option, and you can start a business within a business. You can be creative, but it is about communication and managing upwards as well as managing downwards. And you said one thing there as well. I had all these skills, and that's the thing that unless you do get investment and backing, and if you go and start your own, but you've been in a management role for a number of years, you've got to park some of them skills for a few years. That's something people need to really, really think about. Chris, we're out of time, but thank you.
Pleasure.
So much. I've loved listening to the story
I've enjoyed it, mate. It's good. It's flown by. Look at
that. What I always ask is, if people are listening to this and they do want to read, if it's a manager wanting to just pick your brains, if it's another recruitment owner wanting to find out anything that you've mentioned today. I know specifically you mentioned that employee advisory or support service. Yeah. You're open to people reaching out to you via LinkedIn. Is that the best place? Yeah.
Anything at all. Any help that I can give on any level. Please do.
You're tagged in. I'll make sure you're tagged in everything that goes out. You know what? I definitely will. I'd love to have you back on in 2021. Let's look at that, what you've made mistakes on, and let's have a look at what goes on in terms of how Interquest evolves into the new world. Appreciate you giving up your time for people today.
Thanks for having me, mate. Thank you,
guys. Anyone who's listening on LinkedIn Live, thank you for listening. Appreciate you giving us your attention today, 2:00 on a Tuesday of all times. And anyone who's listening back on the podcast or on YouTube, thanks again, as always, for your attention. I don't take it for granted. I really appreciate the fact that you give your time to listen to this show. I always ask for one thing. I don't want any money from you guys. I want you to share this episode with someone who needs it. So Chris has got a remarkable story, so much information that can help others. Just drop it a text, a WhatsApp, an email to other people saying, guys, listen to this. The more people that listen, the more that we can keep this industry thriving through difficult times. I'm going to be back on Thursday, 8 a.m. UK time, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern time, with my co-host on a Thursday, Pete Watson. And we've got Angela Hawkins, who's the founder of a company called Tandem Partners, another graduate of our academy. Phenomenal woman, very, very strong leader, recruits in the exec HR space into Australia. And another 7-8 month lockdown story, complete resilience and strength. And I can't wait to find out more about, I know Angela, but again, it's a bit like this today. I've dealt with you weekly, but I feel like I know you so much more. So I can't wait for that one. Hopefully, Chris, as well, you can tune into that. So I'll be back again Thursday, 8 a.m. In the meantime, you guys stay safe, and I'll see you soon.